numbers or text within a formula. Now we know there's a 2.5 in here. Let's go to the top. And if we had forgotten where this 2.5 occurred, but we knew it was within a formula, go to your Find and select Formula. Ahead by row, let's ask it to find that 2.5. And sure enough, even though the formula was evaluated at 2.0, because 2.5 was contained within the formula search was able to find it. In addition to the find command, there is also a search and replace command, which allows us to search out an instance and replace it with something else. We get to it by using OpenAppleR. We're going to replace some text. Let's look for my name, Dan, and replace it with another name. We'll go ahead by row. Replace what? Dan. And let's replace it with another name. Let's replace it with Joe. It asks us one at a time, or if we want to simply change the whole spreadsheet worth of the occurrence of the name Dan. One at a time. Replace this one? Yes, let's replace it. Notice how the name Dan was replaced with the name Joe. Find the next occurrence. Let's see if there are any more. Sure enough, we had a search and replacement.
One of the exciting aspects of AppleWorks 4.0 is the built-in UltraMacros player. UltraMacros has been a popular program for several years on AppleWorks, allowing you to press one key and play back many keystrokes. It also allows you to create programs which control AppleWorks in ways not otherwise possible. With AppleWorks 4.0, we've included the playback capability, sort of like a tape deck that cannot record but can play back. So, using macros that we've developed for you and that other people develop, you'll be able to play back macros even though you don't own the actual UltraMacros program. If you get the UltraMacros program at a later date, you will be able to record your own macros and learn how to write your own macro programs. Let's examine some of the macros that we're including with the package at no charge. One of the features is the Option Escape command, which pops up a macro menu. This is a list of macros along with the keystroke needed to trigger them, allowing you to pick them from a list instead of having to memorize the keystroke. On the list you can see Add Files is Option A or Solid Apple A. Pressing Return instantly goes to the Add Files, saving us several keystrokes. We can cursor down and select a file, and it's quickly added to the desktop. Another example of a macro is a simple one to begin a letter. Let's move into our word processor file, call up the Option Escape menu, and choose Begin a Letter. Pressing Return, the current date is entered in, return address, and you simply address the letter at this point. The UltraMacros language can go far beyond merely playing back macro keystrokes. We can also write complicated and sophisticated programs. Most of the time these programs will be available directly to you in pre-compiled form, ready to run, much like an audio tape is available for you to purchase at a record store and play back on your tape deck. What we're going to do now, though, is load in a macro file called dbwidths and compile the program using ULTRACOMPILER, the program generator which is included with the UltraMacros package but not part of AppleWorks 4.0. Now that the macro has been compiled, we press Option Escape to get our available macro menu. The first item on it is Adjust Database Widths. We press Return and are prompted to choose a database file. Selecting the file, the macro goes to work scanning category widths, telling us the progress of the record is checking as it goes, and by the time I've done describing this to you, the entire file has been reset. Scrolling through the file, we can see that all of the information is organized in such a way that we can see the widest categories at any time. You may be wondering what the difference is between the UltraMacros player included free with AppleWorks 4.0 and the UltraMacros 4.3 disk, which is available separately from Quality Computers. The UltraMacros player we've included for you is just that, a player. It plays back pre-recorded macros and keystrokes which someone else has developed for you. Many of these macros are included on the disk as part of the package. However, if you wish to record your own macros or to write your own macro programs, you will need the full-blown UltraMacros 4.3 package. Along with a compiler for creating programs, it includes a macro options utility which will save those programs as timeout applications for easy distribution to other people who own AppleWorks 4.0. It also includes a debug application, which makes it easier to write macro programs, analyzing your variables, setting breakpoints in your program flow, and checking which macro names are already in use. This package will allow you to create macro programs of unbelievable complexity and yet still easy to use.
Now that you know some of the new features of AppleWorks 4.0, you may be asking yourself, how do I use it in a practical situation? In this segment, we'll be building a gradebook application from scratch. If you're a teacher, the things that we'll be talking about may directly apply to you. If you're not a teacher, the concepts still apply to just about anything you might want to do in AppleWorks 4.0. The first thing we'll probably want to do is create all of our supporting files. For instance, we'll want a file that has all of the information about the students. So what we'll do first is create a file to keep the student names, and we've already done that and created it appropriately, student names. And I've already typed in a few of the students. And in this database we have categories for the student ID, the student name, parent name, address, city, state, zip, and the phone number. One thing that's nice about AppleWorks 4.0 in the database is that you can now create masks for fields, and we'll do that with the phone number. We'll quickly create a quick mask by going into the Modify the Rules, select Mask, and then we create the mask very quickly by typing in Control-N so that we'll get numbers only around any of the formatting characters that we put in. Okay, good. Now when we type in a phone number, it automatically fills in the proper form. Okay, so this is a normal database that we'll just store some information that we'll use in some of the other databases. Essentially, what we've done is created a place that will store the student names. In addition to that, we may also want to store a list of the projects that students will be available or will have to complete for their course. In this case, we'll create another database called appropriately projects, and that database will only have two fields, project ID and project name. And I've already filled in the project ID. You can create any ID number that you want. I've chosen to have like a quarter number separated by a dash and then project number inside that quarter. And then I've already filled in quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, and final exam. So these would be projects that the student would be responsible to complete for their course. Now the one thing that is still a question here is how do we tie this data together? How do we make it all make sense in the gradebook? We've got storage for the names and the projects. Now we need to create a third file which will hold the grade information. In this case, we've named that database file Gradebook. And in the Gradebook, I've put in categories for the student ID, the student name, project ID, project name, the percent grade, and then the letter grade. This would be where, when a student hands in a test, that you would enter his information. The student ID is